Hey, how's it going? Good it's almost noon. It's afternoon now, right? How's it going? My name's Gabriel Chapman. I am here on behalf of NetApp. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hyper-converged or hybrid cloud or both. We know that hyper-converged infrastructure is a very popular technology today. I've worked in this space for a while. A little bit about me. I've been in technology for over 20 plus years, unfortunately. I've been working on the vendor side for the last 7 or so. I lead go-to-market strategy at NetApp for our cloud infrastructure technologies, which kind of encompasses a whole suite of technology, whether it's hyper-converged, converged infrastructure, analytics, object storage, and all flash scale-out technologies. This is my, 8th year at VMworld. I started in 2010. I've been a vExpert for the last 7 years. I've been heavily focused in the VMware community. And today I'm here on behalf of NetApp, really kind of want to talk to you about some things that we have going on. If we look at, always how familiar people are with hyper-converged infrastructure, but the reality is if we look at that marketplace, what we see is that a collapse of a traditional infrastructure stack of technologies, whether it's servers, switches, storage arrays, et cetera, taking those technologies, packaging them up into a building block based approach, right? I mean, I spent, the better part of 2005 to 2009 virtualizing everything in my data center at the server layer. What hyperconverged was take that a step further, because at the end of the day, what are those systems? They're a bunch of commodity x86 servers running some form of Linux. I should be able to virtualize those those constructs and put them into a scalable building block approach that will allow you to facilitate the bulk of the workloads that you have on a daily basis. One part about that that's really beneficial, the value that a lot of people see, is the simplification effort. Is being able to take all of those things, provide an interconnected awareness, and simply deploy them. So you have a magic deployment mechanism and a magic management mechanism, and you can bake those into existing products like vCenter, or you can build your own kind of master control plane and manage it outside of vCenter and manage multiple hypervisors and multiple clusters of resources or whatnot. But the idea behind it primarily is a simplification effort to rapidly deploying resources and then making it simple enough where any of your VM admins or people within a cross-functional team have the ability to manage and provision infrastructure. It's a fairly crowded space. I mean, this is not everybody that's in there. There's probably about 30 to 35 companies that actually provide some kind of hyper-converged infrastructure solution. And what we're starting to see is obviously the consolidation. We saw, Hewlett-Packard acquire somebody, Cisco's acquired a company to bring technology in. You have others that are focused around, pure PaaS, containers as a service, as well as OpenStack type offerings, but the vast majority are focused on a single type of architecture, which essentially takes commodity x86 and does a shared core methodology where you're basically running a controller virtual machine that can attach and provision all the resources, and that takes a little bit of resources and overhead, but then your trade-off there is the simplification effort, right? I would expect over the course of the next 3 years, many of the companies who've kind of come into this space may or may not be here. We saw the same thing happen in the storage world where, the best of the breed type got all acquired, and then everybody else kind of struggles or simply goes away, or, that's common with a lot of disruptive technologies. If we look at what some of the analysts will say, HCI is the area that we're trying to focus on. We've beaten the whole process of the consolidation effort, like bringing everything down into simple appliances that scale to meet most of your needs. But now the shift is to how do we integrate with the public cloud? How do we provide or provision hybrid cloud integration points, right? It's one thing to build infrastructure locally that I play with, but almost every company or customer I talk to has some kind of cloud strategy they're looking to. And the biggest issue for them is how do I bridge the gap between what I've built locally and how I operate in the public cloud space. So if I'm building and provisioning infrastructure applications in Amazon, how do I pull that back down locally so that I'm not doing this massive translation effort, I'm not having to do 2 different development paths, and we see containerization being one of the main points that allows for that to happen, a simplification allowing that to happen, because we look at how the prevalence of Docker, the expansion of the Docker ecosystem, now Kubernetes taking on such a big lead role there, and you're seeing more of the public clouds try to offer some kind of containerization as a service offering because they want to be able to build those new next generation applications and then bring them down into the data center, and by nature, containers offer portability. If we look at what matters for customers that are building cloud infrastructure locally in their own data centers, I have all the work that I've done in the traditional data center. I mean, up until about 2010 or 11, this was my life and focus. I built, single purpose platforms, single tenant, isolated workloads. I would build silos of resources for virtual desktops, and I would do silo for databases, and I do another silo here and there. And then I had this, really, I was not getting the efficiencies of scale that we see with the cloud provider. If I go to Amazon, or if I go to Google, or I go to Azure, they've taken care of all the plumbing for you. You're just consuming resources. And I think a lot of people in IT would like to be able to say, yes, I can basically provide you with compute, storage, and memory, and a layer to provision those in some kind of self-service portal, and you just consume it the same way you would go as if you swiped your card up in the public cloud. And the areas of focal points of cloud infrastructure have a different set of rules and requirements. They usually focus on multi-tenancy or mixed workloads. It's usually a shared infrastructure solution. It's traditionally more scale out than scale up in many respects. It has to be flexible. It has to be able to provide significant levels of automation, i.e. it has to be 100% API addressable. And so that's where we're going in terms of infrastructure that bridges the gap. And I think we're starting to see that in the beginning, Hyperconverged was kind of focused on that traditional silo, and now it needs to transition into the cloud silo or cloud space. Most of our customers kind of have three things that we seem to common. Everybody wants to say, hey, I want to deliver something faster, cheaper, and better. I want to make sure that my people can come in and leverage our own technical resources instead of continuing to expand into shadow IT or expand into the public cloud, when I should be able to control those. And there may be reasons for that. It could be governance, it could be security, it could just be a mistrust. Many of the customers I talk to, all of them kind of say, hey, I want to operate like Amazon does. Well, I'm like, you know what? That's an aspirational goal. Because most people would like to be able to do that. But they do want to take those characteristics, rapid provisioning, scalability, guaranteed performance, and they want to bake those into the infrastructure solutions that they're building. And Hyperconverged is kind of a good start to go there, but I think we need to go a bit further and bring more of that cloud goodness into the platform. The last part is predictable performance. It's one thing if getting away from the silo-based model and being able to cohabitate your production, your dev test, your QA on the same common infrastructure, and at the same time put a walled garden around each one of those so that they're not competing for resources, is a significant step in moving towards really delivering cloud infrastructure in your data center. Because you don't want to have to maintain 3 separate silos of infrastructure. Even if you're able to cohabitate mixed workloads, you can take it a step further and get great economies of scale, especially at the data layer if you're able to do say global inline dedupe compression, thin provisioning, et cetera, and make that 100% API addressable to automate as much of that stuff. So we kind of see these 3 areas: delivering things faster, operating like a cloud, and providing predictable performance as being hallmark points to that transition to being more of a hybrid cloud infrastructure solution instead of just focused on your day-to-day VMware admin. And that's where we see a lot of HCI 1.0. Pimping a product, right? So I'm going to talk about what we've done. In terms of how we looked at the market, obviously NetApp is not the first entrant into hyper-converged infrastructure, but we did look at the space as a whole over time in the last couple of years and looked at our own internal portfolio of intellectual property and said, well, we think that as we start to move forward and as we see more and more cloud, it becomes the predominant mode of delivery, we need to make sure that we can bake a solution or provide a solution that provides predictability, i.e. predictability for workloads or applications and performance. We've always been able to do a little bit of performance predictability through scheduling resource pools, et cetera, inside the virtualization space, but moving into the storage layer was always a bit of a challenge. Flexibility to scale in your terms. I can scale my compute and storage independent of each other without kind of making you take a lockstep approach. That's, if we're doing cloud type solutions, I don't want to have to strand a bunch of resources someplace because of an arbitrarily method to scale everything in lockstep. And simplification simply means, hey, there's no book called The Joy of Menial Tasks, so therefore if I have to do something more than once, I should be able to automate it. For us, what we've done is with 25 years history in servicing data and data workloads and working with cloud providers, et cetera, we wanted to take all the experience that we had in the enterprise space and put that into a hyper-converged solution and really kind of work towards shifting this from just traditional infrastructure sits on your dock or in your data center and how it extends into several different areas. Obviously, we want the kind of scale out agility that most customers are looking for in terms of building a robust private cloud infrastructure. So you can start small, scale non-disruptively. We're going to get rid of the whole concept of forklift upgrades. A lot of this is table stakes for hyper-converged and even more so into hybrid cloud. And for us, the differentiation pieces around it are, we want to be able to go after and tackle those infrastructure as a service type offerings where performance and workload consolidation are primary and big. We want to have simple automated infrastructure workflows and integration points with common third-party tools and platforms. So whether it's Puppet, Chef, or Ansible, PowerShell, vRealize, et cetera, those are the types of integration points we want to bring in. We also want to make sure that as a company that has a portfolio of technologies that there is still interconnected awareness. We have a concept called the data fabric that allows for workload mobility and data mobility and information, inspection and security across multiple different platforms. I could take a volume or a set of workloads running on a hyper-converged and snap mirror them onto a traditional storage array, or maybe even put them up into the cloud. It's that kind of broader expanse of not trapping the data on any one consumption model and freeing it up to go where you need to use it. So, in how the hybrid converged infrastructure piece of this, or hybrid cloud infrastructure piece of this comes, is we start off as, hey, I'm going to come into an organization, we want to talk to them or say, hey, simplification of your common infrastructure applications. So it's virtual desktops, it's your test dev, it's your enterprise tier 1 apps and down below. Great. You have a hyper-converged infrastructure solution here that can facilitate those. This is kind of HCI 101. Going further though, how do we leverage your existing infrastructure assets? If you've purchased NetApp ONTAP technologies, if you've wanted to leverage the own compute that you have sitting on the floor, how do we integrate those into a hyper-converged solution that sits on the floor? Because we want to take that Borg approach where it's like we're not going to lift and shift everything all at once, but we can over time move workloads over and continue to get investment protection with your existing solutions. So we have an open storage model, i.e. you can bring your bare metal instances, an alternative hypervisor, you can go straight with Kubernetes and connect those into the HCI space and leverage the storage technologies in there and get the benefits of that predictability through guaranteed quality of service, et cetera. But also it's the ability to move data and workloads between the HCI platform and other common NetApp technologies and products. Furthermore, we've always been really keen about the open source environment and making sure that these next generational workloads, if you haven't had DevOps pounded in your head for the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know if you've been on the planet Earth, but that move towards looking at infrastructure as a service, continuous integration, continuous dev-related pipelines, the entire DevOps movement, and that shift to containerization, which I think is starting to make more inroads into what we consider hyper-converged infrastructure. It could be container-based infrastructure. So we want to really go after that. And then there's some existing workloads that are starting to come to prevalence. So whether it's AI, ML, IoT, we're looking to make sure that the platform is kind of future-proof to facilitate and work into those wares as well. The last part here is the public cloud. We've been working with Amazon and Google and Azure for a while now to provide services in the public cloud, whether it's NFS as a service through our Cloud Volumes implementation. We want to make sure that we have the means to bring that back down into your local data center as well. So if you've done workflows, and if you've leveraged something like Cloud Volumes on Amazon, there's going to come a point in time when you want to leverage that additionally on premises. So being able to extend your data footprint or management aspects down into your local data center is one way that you can approach that and build more of a hybrid cloud infrastructure solution. So it looks like my time is up. Good thing, because this was my last slide. And I want to thank everybody for attending. Obviously, if you have more questions, you can always come to NetApp and take a look at our website. We'll have lots of information about this, and look for us at VMworld Europe coming up soon. So thank you.